thought about saving for retirement or maybe have started saving for retirement, sometimes it's difficult to know like where to start or what your options are. And research shows that most families don't have enough money saved for retirement. If you have started already, that's great. But this workshop will help you also determine what else you may need to do to make sure you reach your retirement age with enough money saved. Beginning to save is important. Making sure you know how much to save is also important. We'll address that topic in this workshop as well. When we create a financial plan for retirement, we tend to assume that everything is going to be perfect, but life is not perfect. Unexpected things happen, but you don't need to worry. You don't need a crystal ball. In this workshop, we're going to give you some tools and resources to help you prepare for some unexpected things that happen in life, so you can be prepared. Okay. Before I start, I just want to say, if you guys have any question at any time, feel free to stop me. I'll be happy to answer questions. And again, my name is Angel, and my coworkers here are Sylvia and Wes. We're at the Maua branch, M&T Bank, okay? Okay, so in this workshop, we're going to talk about factors that you should consider when planning for retirement. We're going to learn how to estimate your retirement expenses, identify the saving and planning strategies that allow you to maximize your savings at any age, compare the types of retirement plans available for you, and set goals for your own retirement savings. Okay, Wes? Or Sylvia? Sorry. Okay, I passed the straight. Okay.
Okay, so these are just yes and no answers. If you have started saving for retirement, like how are you saving, or do you have? Yeah, I'm good. Have you thought about it? Like, I don't know, do you want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's ask questions.
We'll make it easy.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, that's great.
You want to just keep going through the questions?
Yes.
Just
Have you already enrolled?
yes.
Okay. And do you know what's in your retirement accounts? That's, okay. So that's good.
What do you mean, sort of?
It's there, I don't think
You don't.
about it.
What?
I don't think about it.
You good?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just the beginning when I
Oh,
talked to me.
I'll step
Okay.
in here. This is
Yes.
It's a statement.
Is this you?
Yes,
Oh,
this
all
is
right,
me.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
all
No,
right.
you're good. Take your time. You're good. So yeah, we're gonna move right on. I appreciate the questions, Sylvia, and then we're gonna talk about considering retirement. So there's a couple of different factors, of course, that go into that when planning. Each of these steps here, it's definitely beneficial. This is just basically a rough estimate, a rough guideline of what's good for you when it comes to trying to plan. And of course, it's always good to have a plan. It doesn't have to be very extensive. It doesn't have to be anything that it's paragraphs long. You're not writing a book about things, kind of just jotting down goals and setting those as well that are very attainable. It doesn't have to be anything that's in the stratosphere and that's unattainable. So yeah, those are the couple things that we're gonna be looking at. So this is definitely a narrowed down list, and I actually am gonna add one in. We didn't get a chance to add it into the PowerPoint, but there's one at the end. We're good. I just wrote down notes about it, so I'm gonna talk about it a little bit more, so we're good. In terms of your income, think about all the current sources of income that you have, which is your salary, your tips, benefits, assets, all of those different things all come into play. And of course, it's about being manageable and what you can do to have those things and understand them in the way that works for you. And that's the big thing. What we're here to do is provide guidelines. It is all up to you when it comes to planning and things of that nature. Of course, we can answer questions and help you out with that, but it's whatever works for you all. And that's the big thing about it, is what you're comfortable with proceeding forward. So just wanted to let that be known, of course, as well. And like Angel said, if you have questions, we can definitely go into that as well. Moving on with expenses, think about future and current expenses, including money spent on needs and wants. And that's the thing, once retirement does come, those expenses unfortunately don't go away, because there's a lot of things that you still have to purchase. There's a lot of things that you have to pay bills for, credit, rent, mortgage, things of that nature, cars. I can go on. And then also your health. Think about your current level of health and learn what you may need to plan for in the future. There's a lot of great accounts as well out there that I'm not going to cover right now, but there are also accounts that have to do with putting away for health savings when something does happen, and eventually it does always happen, which is the thing, and that's what we're in the business for, is that planning aspect to make sure that everything goes smoothly when those occurrences do come up. And then finally with taxes, whether it's pre-tax or post-tax, that's of course, again, a comfort level thing with what makes you want to go forward. In terms of, we all know what pre-tax and post-tax deduction is. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the PowerPoint as well. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention, and again, like I said, it's not in this PowerPoint, but it's the people that surround you as well. We all do, and we're in the business of helping people out, and we know how important it is, not only for just that one person or two people that we're helping out, but the whole family, the whole level of friends as well, that also comes into play, where that's affected by you in terms of a ripple effect when it happens with doing stuff for setting up retirement. And the one that I wanted to mention about is beneficiaries, and that type of idea of just having that plan in place for if something were to happen. And something, it does happen, it is a little bit of a topic that doesn't like to be discussed as always, but things do happen like that, and that's what we're here for, is to fill in those gaps as well. I'm gonna pass it over to Angel to move on with a couple questions.
Okay. So these are some questions that everybody has to, like, we all have to ask ourselves, right? So important questions like, when do you expect to retire? I think I might not be able to retire. You know, but realistically speaking, I think I had to also have said that at some point I might not be able to work, right? So whether I like it or not, as much as I like work, and as much as I dread not having the money, I know I need to start doing something now, if I didn't do that before. How long do you want your retirement to last? I think this is an easy question, but the underlying question is, how long do you think you're going to be around? You know, one of the fears is running out of money. The other question, you know, which is, as opposed to not living long enough. So I think everybody would rather run out of money rather than live early, check out, you know, and also what is your income now? So I think this is a valid question to ask yourself, because everybody is used to living with a certain amount of income, and then you adjust your expenses. When you retire, you know that's going to shrink, or maybe not, if you're diligent enough. You know, some people are really good about saving, and they really do make sacrifices. So when they retire, they could live like millionaires. So, you know, it's choices that we make in the present that affects us in the future. Of course, I believe there is also situations where people make too many sacrifices. In my country, we have a saying in Spain. We're saying, if you save too much, you might become the richest person in the cemetery. You know, so everything is about balance in life, right? And final question, which ties up with all of the previous questions, is how much should you save each year? So a good retirement plan is going to consider these factors, and what we mentioned at the beginning about unforeseen expenses, so we can deal with them when they happen. Okay, and next, Sylvia.
Okay,
We're back.
we're gonna talk about our retirement savings goals. When you save money for retirement, you should aim to have at least 70% of your current income available for each year of your retirement. So that's an individual question, I guess, but you can adjust your retirement savings goal amount to increase your monthly savings to reach your goal. So that is just what statistics show that you should have, but some people will have much more and some will have much less.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is that your gross income or
Yes.
your net after your taxes and benefits come out of your current
Oh, I thought it
paycheck?
was gross.
Because currently, my income, and then what comes out, I get like 60% out because, I get 60% because of taxes and the benefits. So
Mhm.
for me to save 70%, that's more than what I'm making now net.
And again, it kind of goes back to that, what I was mentioning about whatever is comfortable for you and whatever you can put away.
That's a huge
You know,
number.
Yeah, 70 is the goal, and again, it's all based on the individual plan. If you can put 60 away, that's awesome. It's putting something away. That's what we're trying to say, but what do you have to say?
So I think also what we're trying to say is when you retire, you're going to live with 70% of what you're making right now. Does that make sense? So your income is.
How can you save 70% of what I'm making?
I know, so
I'm
you're
only
not, you
taking
will,
out.
no, I don't mean that you will save 70% of what you're making now. I mean is that whatever you save for now should, so let's say you make 100,000 a
Yeah.
year now. So the goal is when you retire, you should make it so that your income at that point is 70% or 70,000. So your income when you retire is going to be less than what you make now, but we will see that later on in this presentation. You're going to get a pension from Social Security, right?
I'm sorry? say that
Social
again?
Security.
Hopefully you will be getting Social Security when you retire.
Yeah, if that still exists, yeah.
Right, so that's why I was saying before, I might never be able to retire, but as of right now, being realistic, not pessimistic, that still is around, and it's not going to go away in the next 2-3 years. Maybe in 50 years, or maybe when I retire, that will be the case. But right now, you know that there's going to be some kind of pension. So that, we will see that later on, is typically based on your income earnings, and it covers around 40%. So you need to worry about the rest of the other 30%, not the whole 70%.
What your investments are gonna generate.
Yeah,
To get you to.
so the idea is to
70%.
supplement what you're going to get from your pension with your own savings when you retire. So you don't go from, let's say, 100,000 to 40,000. So if you can supplement that, you can reach at least 70,000, right, speaking of my example. So you don't need to save 70% of your current earnings. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
So we're going to talk about strategies to make your money grow so that you can make that happen.
So do you have something?
My
to mention?
question, so if you make 100,000 gross, so the 70 that we should have should be gross also? That's what
I think this is more or less as
like
a rule of thumb.
yeah, say 150,000, then you should have,
So
maybe-
I would think about this in terms of net income.
yes, okay, net,
Yeah,
so
so-
not gross,
That
okay,
was actually-
gotcha.
That was one of the things I was actually
Okay.
gonna mention. It's a great
Gotcha.
transition because I have this coming up right now, because we were gonna talk about that a little bit in terms of setting your goals. And I know it's a little difficult right now. I see that that Marianne does have the pad and she can write a little bit in here. If you want, great. If this could be a little bit of homework for you, this is something that you could write down as well. But this is what we were just talking about in terms of gross or net income, and that's literally, Marianne, you're speaking to the crowd here because I have a note in here talking about net and gross income because it does depend on the situation that you're in. So yeah, with this, it's either way that you're looking at it, but we'll start from the beginning in terms of longevity. And I'll kind of ask these in a hypothetical manner. At what age do you expect to retire? a couple of those different things in terms of how many years you think your retirement lasts. And that was a lot of what Angel was talking about in his first couple of slides. So again, hypothetical, but this is something that's a little bit more of when you can get a chance to sit down and kind of crunch the numbers and put together a rule of thumb like we were just talking about. As we can see, we do have the phrase right there, so that's wonderful about it. In terms of analyzing your income, what is your current income per year? So Maria, in your situation, it's a little different because if you're seeing it as gross, then you're gonna see it as gross when it comes to contributing for retirement as well. If you get taxes with net income that's on your tax returns, then you're gonna be looking at putting your deductions in terms of net income. So it's kind of, it all, again, depends on the situation, but that's the good thing is that you just have to look at that and feel comfortable with what you're doing. I'll always say consult a financial advisor, talk to people, do a little research. It never hurts to be informed, and that's my big thing. Sylvia and Angel will tell you that. That's what I'm looking to do, is just always trying to inform people as much as possible about the resources that are out there, and that is the great thing. So we were just talking about the 70% threshold, and then also 80%. That is very high, yes. But it could be attainable, and there are some things that we can look at. Even like you were saying, Marianne, if it was 60%, that's still something that you are putting away, and it is definitely making a difference that can come towards the end. And then, of course, we have estimated total costs, and that's after doing and crunching all of the numbers, then you have that little baseline. And these are the goals that I was speaking about before, in terms of what you can look at to see, okay, where can I start? What do I need to do? And who can I consult? Who can I ask questions? Where can I find some answers about that? And of course, there's help. There's help everywhere. We're willing to help as well, and that's why we love doing these things, is because it's just all about being informed and just having that idea about what needs to go forward. So I'm going to move on. Does anybody have any questions right now? Okay, perfect. And then this is going to be Angel in terms of talking about value of time.
Okay. So something that I would like to ask you is, like what are the reasons people start saving early in life? Like, can you give me some examples? Like why people start saving?
For your future, right?
For your future, for your house, exactly. Right. Right. So you're thinking ahead, right? Okay. So in this case, if you think about retirement, some reason why people start saving, in my case, is because my company matches my contributions up to, I think it's 4% or 5% in my 401k. So that's a big reason to start saving. Another reason might be because your parents told you when you were a child, save money, you never know what's coming, right?
Nice. That's my coin
Yeah.
phrase, is you never know.
And
We're going to get a poster.
and something that's more or less like evidently explained here is the earlier you start, the more you can grow your money. So, like, I have a 2-year-old, so I'm going to make sure it's like ingrained in him before he gets to 18 that he knows like money grows over time. And there are safe ways of doing that. So saving is super important, and it's something I think is in our culture. So knowing that, what happens? Not everybody starts saving for retirement when they should, right? So why is this? Can you give me some examples of why people don't start early enough? Yeah, or maybe, you should be saving, but you see a nice car and you're like, and you look at your neighbor and they're driving a nice Jeep, and yeah, or you get into a house and maybe when you buy a house, you didn't account for all of the expenses. So property tax, it never stops growing. Like, that's one of the things that are basically, if you're paying 10,000 on property taxes today, and you buy a house now, and that's your property tax, in a few years it's going to be 12, 13, 14, 15,000. So things happen. But if we can stick to something that's attainable. So if I start saving today, something that I can afford, like Wes was saying, we had to set goals that are realistic based on my current situation. This is how we can plan for the future. So this is just to give you an example. So let's say somebody wants to retire with $600,000 saved. So we can see how it makes a difference to start earlier versus later. So somebody who starts saving to make or to save up to $600,000 at the age of 18 will have to save more or less every year $12,000. If you wait until you're 50, that amount goes to $35,000. So save now. That's what I had to say. So, but I also want to say it's never too late. You know, sometimes we tend to look at a big problem, like I realize now I don't have enough, and we put it off because I don't want to face reality. It's never too late. And you can always look for other solutions, like, okay, maybe, like we will discuss this later, but maybe if I haven't saved enough money until now, I can try to look for ways to make more money or cut my expenses or, you know, make decisions that will help me in the future. Okay, so I hope this is not too pessimistic, rather optimistic, and you know, I want you to feel empowered. Okay, so I think Sylvia can help us now.
This is the value of compound interest. Compound interest is the interest you already earned on the principal amount plus the amount of the accumulated interest. So now is this 2,000, right? Let's say it's 2,000.
Yeah.
What are these? That's what oh, this is just ages. Okay, so by the time you're 58, if you start when you're 18, grows, 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 by the time you're 58.
So we all understand the concept of compound interest, correct? That it builds off of what you've already earned, basically? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Oh, we gotta go back.
Yep.
Thank you, Sylvia. And I will go in here, and we're gonna just do a couple examples based off of what we were just talking about. I would just ask if you can just take a few seconds, maybe 30 seconds to just look this over, and I'll kind of give a breakdown of what we're looking at here in terms of both sides. So this is looking at Joan. Hypothetically, she invested $100 into a retirement account. Since then, she has contributed $50 per month to an account that earns about 10% interest, which compounds annually. Which chart best describes how her money will grow over 40 years? So take a little bit of time just to think about it, and then I will see what everybody thinks. All right. So does anybody want to share what they think and why? Which one would be the compound interest chart? And you would be correct, because that's what Angel was just talking about in terms of, we were talking about just time value. This is growing at a steadier pace, and you could see as the numbers go by, it's a little bit steadier. Compound is building off of that interest that's already earned, and that's why you're making a little bit more in terms of that 40 years down the line. It's compounding off of what you've already earned. So yes, that would be correct. Chart A would be the one that definitely is discussing compound interest. So anybody have any questions before we move on here? All right, perfect. So Angel, this is going to be you here talking about a couple of different income sources for retirement.
Okay, so there's one that we have mentioned already. So when we retire, we can expect money to come from different places, right? So the one that we mentioned before, and we're going to keep discussing, is Social Security, the 40% rule of thumb. Again, when I retire, maybe it will be less, who knows?
It'll be more, you never know.
Yeah, but this is why people move to Florida, right? So there's always things you can do. Life around here is pretty expensive. Okay, so one is your personal savings. So we were discussing how saving is important for retirement. Also, saving is important for, like everybody needs to have ideally 6 months to a year worth of expenses in the bank, in case you lose your job, something happens, you still need to keep paying rent, mortgage, etc., until you can fix whatever situation happens. With regards to savings, we have discussed compounding interest over time, so that plays in your favor. Again, we also have employer-sponsored retirement plans, the 401k that I mentioned. Not every employer has 401k options, but it's a great opportunity, I think, that you should take advantage of. Social Security, and then there is investments. With this comes things such as real estate, stocks, or bonds. So many people prefer investing in real estate, meaning I would rather have 1 or 2 properties that I can rent over time, or if need be, I can sell it when I retire, and that becomes part of my future income. Stocks, we'll discuss this later, but there's a trade-off between risk and return in investments. So that's something that you have to choose according to your preference, or bonds, which would be like the safer option versus investments. And other sources of income, so things such as inheritance. Hopefully everybody has rich parents, right? Gifts, or money from friends and family, I don't count on my friends. But who knows? Maybe my son will be, who knows, a football player, and who knows?
He's running around upstairs, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We're working on way.
Yes. So, so we're going to keep talking about how we can build our fund for retirement from these sources. And I think Sylvia is going to take us to, talk about different strategies.
We can develop a strategy to maximize our retirement income. We can make it a habit to set aside a little bit of money. Try to save part of paycheck for retirement if you're still working. But if that is not possible, put some amount aside monthly for several times a year. Some people do it, put a whole bulk, and some do it weekly or monthly. You can also invest in assets that may increase in value, and always diversify your investments to manage the risk so they're not all in one place. Any questions? We'll move on. Yes, sir. Thank you.
So yes, Angel kind of touched on it a little bit as well as Sylvia in terms of the types of plans that we have when it comes to retirement as well. And I'll start off by saying definitely talk to your employer if you do, of course, if you are working, these options should be available. There might be categorized as a different name under a different title, but a lot of these options are definitely available if you just consult your employer and say, hey, what are my options? Because they should be able to provide you with those types of options. So they comprise a preset choice of investment options, such as mutual funds, like Angel was talking about, which are often made up of stocks and bonds. So particularly with employer-based 401ks, we do have access to that at M&T, and it's a lot of companies that are in the private sector In terms of privately owned companies in the capital market, those are the companies that will have the 401ks, and that's a little bit different from the 403b. So that's your government employees, people who work for the state of New Jersey, state of New York, the U.S. government. Nonprofits are also in that category, excuse me. And that's another one that it's a little bit different when it comes to tax. But at the same time, yes, those are the provided options, and that's what people are looking for when it comes to talking to your employers. And then, of course, like I was saying, there's a little bit of that gray area when it comes to defined benefit plans, or like Marianne had mentioned in the beginning about pension as well, because those are still options. I feel like I don't hear a lot about pensions, especially now. It's more 401k, 403b pensions. It's still around for sure. But definitely it's one of those things that has been maybe a little bit phased out just with the change of times as well. The 401k, 403b has the ability to go up and down as well because it is technically in the stock market and it is part of that capital market as well. So yeah, those are just a couple of different options when it comes to that. Again, I will say do a little research, see if you are working, what your company offers, and then try to do a little bit of planning when it comes to that and having that conversation, because of course that's crucial, and that's a great way to start in terms of putting something away is what your employer provides. And then IRAs, and it stands for investment retirement accounts. There are two types, which is traditional and Roth. And I'll go just in a little bit of detail in terms of the differences. So traditional, when you're doing your contribution, it's going to be when it's before tax is involved. So for example, when you receive your paycheck, if you were to contribute to a traditional IRA, that's before the tax comes out. So now it's kind of like, Marianne, what you're talking about with gross. It's kind of before that tax comes out. That would be what the IRA is, especially the traditional. That's what that's talking about. And then the tax is deferred until you're trying to take your distribution out at the end. And you also do pay taxes on that when you are trying to withdraw that money when it comes to retirement. And the one that I have, I will say, is the Roth IRA, because that's after taxes have been taken out. And once you get into retirement, all of that is tax-free when you're taking out the withdrawals, when you're taking out that cash to be distributed and deferred to when you have that retirement. And there is still tax on it when you are in retirement, but that all depends on the situation that you're in. And what I mean by that is when you have your earnings in retirement, of course, you still have tax that you have to pay, because that's employer tax that we're talking about. And one of these things is, of course, when we're talking about the separate things with retirement, it comes down to the fact that when you have those earnings, it is all taxed at the same time. But when you are being able to withdraw those funds out, especially with the Roth IRA, the tax is already taken into consideration with that. So a lot of those withdrawals are penalty-free, like I said, and tax-free, which is a really good thing. And that's why we kind of see, of course, there are both of those options, but a lot of people do like doing Roth IRAs because it's taxed up front, and then once you take that money out in the end, you don't have to worry about the tax at that point. So does anybody have any questions about that before we move on? Okay, perfect. Angel is going to talk about what plan is tailored and right for you.
Okay, so for this part, I would like you to look at page 9, please. Okay. So here, okay. So as we were saying before, there are many options to choose from, right? When you're looking for retirement. So when considering your different savings options, there are different things like, is there a matching contribution, right? So 401k, we said pretty much everybody has that. Fees, are there any fees associated with this plan? Withdrawal limits, so can I withdraw early? What is the tax status? Do I get taxed now versus later, or do I get taxed now and later, or how does that work, right? So what is the tax bracket? So what is my tax bracket now, and do I think I'm going to be in a lower or higher tax bracket when I retire? And so plan purpose, am I saving for myself or for somebody else. So, as you can see, you can either say, I know this, or I need to learn more about this. I think that's a really good, question to ask myself. Like, if I think about my retirement plan, right now I can tell you I'm not sure if I'm paying fees. I have no idea. I don't know if my 401k is paying fees. So that's something that I will have to investigate more and find out from maybe talking to my financial advisor, have them look at the statement, and maybe they will tell me, oh, you're paying fees, but you're okay, or you're paying fees and this doesn't make sense. People that you can talk to about this are maybe friends, financial planners, accountants, attorneys. So these are some questions that you can bring to your advisors. So next we will be considering some factors that we can consider when choosing different plans.
Here are more factors to consider when comparing plans. Matching contributions, the tax status, the fees, the tax brackets, withdrawal limits, and the plan purpose. So I guess those are questions you can talk to your advisors or accountants about. Any questions?
I'm going to talk a little bit about investments as we move on here, and that's kind of a little bit what we've talked about already, going through a couple of these things, and this is just the diversity aspect of trying to have money go into different places and growing different types of ways in those different places. So investing directly in vehicles such as stocks and bonds, or a diversified combination of those several options is definitely something that is attainable and definitely able to do, like Angel was mentioning about consulting an accountant, a lawyer, a financial planner or advisor, bankers. Yes, that's one thing that you could definitely talk about with that, especially on the base level. When it comes to stocks, this is just basically a breakdown of the basics of what happens with investing in stocks, is that you can own a part of a publicly traded company and its assets and earnings. You may often also hear people talk about stocks in terms of shares or equity. And I think Angel mentioned this in the beginning in terms of the stock market. It does fluctuate, so there are negative returns and there are positive returns. And that's why, of course, I keep mentioning about doing the research, being informed about what you're considering to put your hard-earned, hard-worked money towards is definitely crucial. It definitely does come down to those factors because, like I said, it does. We just had, I think, last 2 Mondays ago when we had the big stock market crash as well. There was the Microsoft outage with all of those different things. So a lot of that stuff does happen and it does fluctuate a lot. But for the most part, I'm forgetting the number, but I know over the past 10 years, if you do look at the stock market, at least the S&P 500, which is basically what the stock market is based off of and dictated, it has gone up significantly from that point, looking back to 2014. But we will move on. In terms of bonds, you can also lend money to corporations and government agencies and earn a fixed rate of interest for a specific period of time. So that's definitely the key there, is this word right here, is that it is fixed. It is a specific interest rate that you are earning on that until that maturity comes up. And of course, what we have at M&T is talking about certificates of deposit, and that's a CD in other terms, which we like to, some people might think about putting that into the cassette player and playing a little bit of music, but when we talk about CDs here in banking, it's a certificate of deposit where you have that specific interest for an earned period of time when the maturity does come up. And then finally, in terms of mutual funds, yeah. Oh yeah, sorry.
What is your CD rate currently for 1 year?
For 1 year currently, and I say currently because I will get to the point why I say currently, it's 4.50 for 12 months. The other one that we have at a promotion is 4.75, excuse me. And the thing about that is, because today is the last day for that, we're actually, I believe it's 4.75. It's 4.25. that'll be going to tomorrow for the 12-month, and then 4.5 will be going to the 6-month. Yes, so they are dropping, and we just got that notification today. But yes, that is one of the options that we do have, and that is, like I said, with the fixed rate as well. It does go over that period of time, and then when that maturity comes up, what would happen is it falls down to whatever the current market rate would be at. Of course, unfortunately, as bankers, we don't have access to know when those market rates are changing. But I would say that promotion that we've had going on, it's been for a little bit, I want to say about 8 to 9 months. So relatively in that time frame, they have steadily started to decrease, and we've seen a lot of things, including the prime rate, which is going to be going down in September in terms of housing and all of those different things that come with just working on mortgage as well. So things have steadily decreased, but yes, right now that's the options that we are looking at, and still that's something. We do have other options where they're a little bit lower, but the fact that you can even earn any interest in that locked period of time is definitely beneficial, because you can get a little bit more money on the other side of that maturity as well. Does anybody else have any questions before we continue on? Okay. Perfect. All right, and Angel is going to talk about risk management, which is definitely very important in today's world when it comes to financing.
Okay, so something that's, I think, a very important thing to consider when you save or invest is the concept of risk and reward. I was just thinking of the expression, if you have more skin in the game, right? So the more risk, the more you expect to come out of something, but you also can expect to have more losses. In my case, I think of things like when you ask for a mortgage versus when you get a unsecured loan, or when you get into credit card debt, right? Those are things that have very different interest rates, because a mortgage is backed by your house, your credit card is backed by nothing. So if you don't pay it, the bank is basically, they have to take the loss and hope that you will be paying just to save your credit score. But if you don't care, the bank loses all its money. So similar to this, when we invest our money, we can look at different options, low risk, medium risk, or high risk. So what are some of the things that are low risk? Savings accounts, right? Bonds, CDs. Medium risk, right? Maybe government bonds, or maybe mutual funds. Like, relatively speaking, they're not going to, they're not going to drop, but they do relatively well. Or high risk. I think right now like stocks. I was going to say Tesla stocks. Yes. Because they expect them to go through the roof, but there are things that are out of your control. Like the markets, how the industry performs, right? Competition from other countries. Tesla, just to use an example, makes great cars, but now we have Chinese electric vehicles that are super cheap and super good. So things to consider when thinking about your risk options. So what is one thing that people do in regards with risk? You can diversify, right? So you can choose a mix that aligns with your profile. And what we recommend is talking to somebody who can give you some guidance for your investments, and who's going to show you different options. So they're going to say, okay, so this typically is a high risk option, but you can also expect to make more money. Also, something that you consider in terms of your risk appetite is usually how much money or how much time do I have left before retirement, right? So if I'm planning to retire in the next year or so, I don't want to take any chances. My case, like I was saying at the beginning, 20, 30 years, maybe never. But I know that as I get more closer to an age where I know I don't think I can work any longer, I'm going to choose a more conservative strategy. So what are some ideas, low risk portfolios? So like we said before, savings accounts, and also investment that has more bonds than stocks. What is an idea for a medium risk portfolio? So, or, we said mutual funds maybe, and, like we will still have a lot of cash investments and maybe less stocks. And then what will be a risky portfolio? Something that focuses mostly on things like stocks, and very few cash options. So again, this is something that I think, like you were saying, you look at your plan once a year, right?
Well, not once a year, but.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you don't have to think about it like all the time, but I think once a year, it's good to see with that person that gives you guidance and evaluate your strategy and say, okay, how do you feel about this? This is what you have right now. Do we move this in one direction or we leave it the way it is? So it's part of planning. It doesn't have to consume your every minute, but it has to be there. And like we're saying it doesn't have to be super complex, but it has to be something that you have hopefully written down on a piece of paper. What they say about planning? If it's not on paper, it's wishful thinking. It's not a plan. And with that, we can move on with Silvia.
We can put the plan into action. So set your goals, develop a strategy that works for you, implement and try to maintain the plan that you do, and reflect.
Any questions before we move on with the summary?
Okay.
So I really do want to, before I go into the summary, I do want to reflect. I'm making my own jokes now on this statement right here, because I'm going to say this is a lot of information we just gave you. There's a ton of different moving parts, moving obstacles when it comes to retirement. But what we're trying to do here tonight is just allow you to know what's out there and the resources that are available to you, because it might seem that there are too many resources at times. It's kind of an information overload, and learning a lot of different stuff in a condensed time period, that can happen. But that's why we're here, and that's why we ask you, of course, I was saying about doing a little bit of homework, when you can get a chance to just take a deep breath, look at things in a clear mindset, and have that ability to proceed forward and say, oh, maybe I'm going to stop into the bank today. Oh, maybe I'm going to stop by my accountant's office today. Maybe I'll give a call to my lawyer. Maybe I'll give a call to a financial advisor. I'll say, for an example, for me, I got super lucky with my financial advisor. I actually went to college with him, and he just started, I'm originally from the Scranton area in Pennsylvania, and he just started up in that area doing financial planning. And he's my friend. And I called him up and I said, hey, what's going on? I heard that you're doing a little bit of financial advising. It was as simple as that. He said, well, yeah, let's talk about it a little bit more. What I'm trying to make the point about is there are resources out there, and there are people that you can trust to handle your finances, and also, like I keep saying, inform you about those conversations, about plans that you can put into place. So I just wanted to mention that before we go on here until, in terms of wrapping everything up. So what we've done tonight is we've examined the factors you should consider when planning for retirement. We've learned how to estimate your retirement expenses. We've identified the saving and planning strategies that allow you to maximize your savings at any age. And that's the good thing there, is that it could be at any time. You could start at any moment. And that's the positive. And that's what we're trying to reiterate, is, like Angel and Sylvia were saying before, it's never too late to start anything. We also compared the types of retirement plans that are available for you, which we went over in a little bit of detail. And then we also set goals, and that's what we're looking to do going forward, is that you have a little bit of an idea of how to put a plan in place to go forward and start saving for retirement. I will catch my breath. We've been talking a lot. We want to thank all of you for coming out. I will wrap up as I have with a last couple of those slides. Does anybody have any questions at the moment about anything? Okay. All right. I hope everybody comes away with at least one thing that they're saying in their minds. Okay, this is something that has helped out a little bit, and this is definitely attainable at whatever stage of your progression in life and experiences that you are, and that's what we're looking to do. So that is going to be it. Again.